Yo, what's up? Let's talk about sampling. Sampling is the reuse of an existing recording in a different sound recording, usually edited, looped, or manipulated to creatively fit into a new composition. When most people think of sampling, they usually think of a song being used, but sampling isn't limited to just that. Sampling also includes the use of live performances, speeches, or even noise or Foley sounds. The earliest form of sampling can be dated back to the 1940s, where a French technique called musique concrète required you to physically manipulate tape machines to create eerie and otherworldly sounds, making it pretty popular for sci-fi and horror movie scores. Fast forward to the late 70s, and the term sampling was coined by the company Fairlight during the production of the CMI, a synthesizer with the ability to record and play back 1 second worth of sound.
Blah, and you can then put that through the unit. Blah, blah, blah,
blah. This revolutionary feature would set the standard for dedicated samplers in the 80s, like the EMU emulator and the Akai NPC. These samplers, in tandem with record players and synthesizers, would spark a renaissance in modern music, kickstarting many genres like electronic music and hip-hop. And with the advancements of technology and music production being more accessible than ever before, artists now can sample pretty much anything and breathe new life into old recordings. So today, I'm gonna go over a few beats I made using 3 different sampling techniques: looping, chopping, and manual editing. Now, I don't think there's a wrong way to sample, but there are simpler ways to do it. The simplest way is to loop the sample. Looping is essentially taking a section of a sample and repeating it over and over, creating a new rhythmic continuity with the sample. It's all about taking a single moment of time and stretching it out for as long as you need it. To have the most control with loops, it's best to use stems, which are individual waveforms of a song separated by instrument. And if you need somewhere to find good samples and stems, you can always use tracklib. This video is sponsored by Tracklib. Tracklib is an online record store designed specifically for sampling, offering quick and easy sample finding and clearance for songs of all different genres, time periods, and regions, including artists like Isaac Hayes, Louis Armstrong, and even Mozart. Tracklib has a constantly growing catalog of over 100,000 songs to sample from, and with their newest update, Tracklib Beats, you can use draft drum loops to play on top of the samples, giving you an idea of how they could be used in different genres. For my track, I'm using this sample from the world-renowned producer, Frank Dukes. It just has so many moving parts to it, and I feel like I could use the stems pretty well. And since this song, along with 90% of Tracklib's catalog, is under the C license, I can clear this sample for a fraction of the price it would typically cost to clear. And it's not just me. Plenty of artists like J. Cole, Lil Wayne, and Snot have taken advantage of Tracklib's incredible service, and you can too. Using my link in the description, you get a free 30-day subscription and 15 download credits, so you can get into crate digging right away. Huge thanks to Tracklib for sponsoring this video. Let's flip the sample. So now that I have the sample in stems, I started looping some sections and arranging where I want the loops to go. For example, I have this high octave guitar playing along with the low octave whistle, and then I have the opposite octaves playing a couple of bars later. When I was working on this beat, I was pretty inspired by old dub songs from the 70s. I tried to use a similar mindset of putting certain sounds in and taking certain sounds out over time. It's all about letting each stem breathe and have a moment to shine. That's what I love about music making. You don't have to show your entire hand at once. You can just show a little at a time. The sound doesn't have any crazy effects to them, just a couple of EQs to clean up the lows and some delay and reverb. Next, I added some drums, which were very simple, and I just wanted them to hit hard. I also added this filtered drum loop for some cool hi-hat patterns. Lastly, here's the bass line. And once everything's put together, here's the final beat. Another way that artists use samples is by chopping them. Chopping is a technique that requires you to take the sample and run it through a sampler, dividing the loop into segments. Once you have them divided, you can chop the segments by playing them in a different order. Chopping is kind of like looping within looping. This style of sampling became pretty popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, when producers like Ninth Wonder and J Dilla and Nujabes were making their mark on hip-hop. What made their beats so interesting was their ability to take samples and completely change how they were initially used. For my track, I'm using another sample I found on tracklib. I like this dark and Godfather-esque vibe the sample has, and I wanted to make a dark trap beat to match. I started off by taking this 4-bar loop and did some simple chops to keep it on beat. And then I recorded this loop into Edison and then ran the sample into Fruity Slicer. Here I could chop the sample into beats, pitch it down 400 cents, and do a couple of simple chops. I used a ton of effects as well, like slow-mo, an EQ, origin, sound goodizer, reverb, and stereo shaper. I also duplicated the samples and pitched them up 1 octave. I also added a lot of drums. I kept it varied with pretty fast and complex patterns. I made this bass line in GMS to match the dark tone of the sample. And then I made this 808 to be as dark and as gritty as the drums. Add a couple more effects to it. And here's the final beat. Looping and chopping have been around for almost as long as recording devices existed, but with the advancements of technology and the creation of the digital audio workstation, sampling can be done with more visual aid and with more control. One of the most impressive aspects of J Dilla's sampling was that it was done on 16 pads with hardware made in 1993.
He somehow, and this is before Pro Tools, now in Pro Tools you can cut and paste and stuff and manipulate how you want it to sound. This is done in like 99. By hand, I watched him.
Modern DAWs like Ableton, Pro Tools, or FL Studio give you that surgical precision of a movie editing software, allowing you to really cut samples into something completely different. I'm not really sure if this has a name, I'm just gonna call it manual editing. For my track, I'm using this jazz song that takes a lot of time to set up its cool moments. It's got a lot of pauses to it, so it can be kind of hard to work with if you're just looping or chopping, which makes it the perfect sample to finely chop. I really had to take my time with this and chop the parts I really like. After that, I went back and filled more spots with smaller chops of the sample. It's okay if it sounds a bit weird, we could fix that with a few EQs, a limiter, and some reverb. The rest of the beat wrote itself. I made the simple boom bap drum pattern, and then layered it with this drum loop. Next is the bass line that I'm playing with flex. And once I put this EQ filter automation in the beginning of the song, here's the final beat. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I know this is a bit different from the regular stuff, but you know, I'm just trying to do different things and see what sticks on the channel. And if you like it, let me know what you think in the comments. I know I've been making a lot more beat videos lately, so if you want to check out any of the beats I made, I'm going to be putting them up on my second channel, the Praxi playlist. I haven't used that channel in like 2 years. So yeah, that's going to be fun. I'll have it linked below. But once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Praxi, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.